Vor forfædres æra, de ofre, der smede vores land. Det handler om Valhalla, krigene kæmpet, kysterne raided. Det handler om den lidenskab og det engagement, vi dedikerer hver dag. Det handler om blodet, sveden, tårne, forarven i vores store nation.
Welcome back, everyone. Well, tickets are on sale, but for the moment, I'm standing here with Djoko after their win. Hi, it must be so cool for you to break finally this losing streak.
Yeah, we kind of like end up trying so much when we lost versus Unicorn, and it's actually hurt us a lot. And especially we had our revenge against Vitality when I believe we could have won the first match, but yeah, it's fine. It feels amazing.
What did you guys do to bounce back after this losing streak?
I guess we are more drafting towards early and mid game. We were tunneling vision too much around playing some Azir and go for full scales, and we just get fucked in early games, so we just lose in 20 minutes. So yeah, we just draft towards more early games.
Recently, Drakos and Deficio told that you were a 10th place team. What do you have to respond to that?
I think at one point when you just see those people are just trying to make drama, you know, to make attention, I mean, you just don't care, you know, at one point you just wait them and you just lost, you know.
Well, what do you guys have to work on to improve and get better for the remaining weeks?
I think we are lacking a lot about the vision. Sometimes the map is completely dark and we need to work on this as well. I guess in early games sometimes we are not taking care about the enemy jungle. Like this game happened, he can just level 2 ganks and we should just play just vision. I think this is our biggest mistake right now.
Well, we'll see about that in the upcoming weeks, but for the moment, congratulations again for the week. And more about the final match of the day on the Analyst desk.
Thank you very much, Laure. Yes, guys, we indeed have a desk. We just don't always use it. We didn't sell it to get our fancy new set.
We bring it to out sometimes to create more drama. That's what we love to do on this broadcast.
Well, dramatic was that previous game, and the player of the game was Ruin with 38% of the votes. This day, it has everything. It has Giants with an upset win over Vitality. It's had football chants. It has Deficio cooking sausages. It had a lot of swear words, and it had this guy popping off on the rift.
This guy, he gets solo killed by Kavashot, and I'm like, Ruin, the guy we hyped up at the beginning of the split, the guy that we thought would be the big carry for the team, and then after that, he just kind of goes into full hyperdrive mode and starts getting solo kills, being significant in team fights. This guy was a joy to watch today.
And I also like it because he is the guy that we highlighted, as you said, in the first couple of weeks, and then the last couple of weeks we had a question mark. Will he come back? And yes, he still got it, which is good to know for Giants fans and that race for playoffs. And as we speak in that race for playoffs, Schalke 04 and Misfits Gaming are preparing for our final game of the day. Both teams are contesting for a top spot, and for Misfits, it is crucial to start picking up wins, and they have lost 4 out of their last 5 games. Now, if you put those numbers like that, that is quite dramatic for a team that we thought would be very much at the top of the table. So talk to me about Project Misfits so far.
Well, I feel like what we've seen from Misfits is a lot of experimentation. We've seen styles where they rely on Hans Summer to be this big carry in late game fights, very much at the beginning of the split. We've seen a focus trying to put the mid laner on carries, and it's not quite worked out as well. And I feel like what we're seeing is a lot of variation, very similar to what we saw last year. And it's kind of like, guys, can we rely on the plan that Misfits have demonstrated to succeed with in the past?
Yes, and as you mentioned, last year was that huge success story from Challenger to Worlds quarterfinals. But do you have the same amount of faith in the plan for this year with the lineup that they have? A big question has been, do they have a similar individual talent? Do they have maybe an X factor to make it work? What do you think?
I feel like right now, that's just kind of what they're missing. Because when I look at this team, I sit there and think to myself, they're trying very hard to play as much League of Legends as properly as possible, whether it be early game snowballs, late game team fighting, whatever it is, they're trying to play all of it perfectly. And as a result, it just seems to be not quite there, and they're just missing something to bring them over the edge. And a large part of that is that X factor. And when you think back to last year, you had it in Power of Evil, in Ignar. These were the kind of guys that would bring out a further Leona up against SKT at a World Squad
So is that what it takes? A weird pick or a weird play?
I don't think it's just about a weird pick. It's just the willingness to take that slight risk. It's that willingness to go, to just not always follow the plan and be willing to make the play. It's that Perks play where you make that flash, long-range paddle star to knock Nukeduck out of the fight and win you a team fight. It is that Ignar landing the max range ult on a Leona to find the pick onto Faker to guarantee you the team fight. When it's just that slight willingness to take the gamble that I feel like that Misfits and Schalke are kind of lacking right now.
Well, there you say it, Schalke as well. And I think when we talk about individual talent, for the side of Schalke, they do have a lot of people that we think might be very, very strong individually, like Nukeduck, but he's kind of lost some steam over the last couple of weeks. And in a post-game lobby last week, Amazing and Deficio said, well, with a team with this talent, you should expect them to get to playoffs. So what's going on there?
Exactly that. I feel like that we're just seeing a very similar sort of style from this Schalke roster, where they're trying very hard to play the game properly. And playing the game properly does not mean picking LeBlanc. This is the X factor that we're talking about and the potential that does exist within this Schalke roster, but they're kind of moving away from it because they don't think it's consistent. They don't think it's reliable to just turn to Nukeduck and say, okay, you have to make this big play that can win us the game. And as a result, we're seeing some individual mistakes in players like Upset, like Nukeduck, even Chachi in recent weeks that kind of need to be resolved if this is a team that wants to make a challenge for the top of the stand.
Well, let me ask you this. If you have Misfits and Schalke who you say are, trying to play the game too properly because they're trying to learn that, then I'm looking at our 4-time LCS champions, G2, who have always made a point out of playing the game correctly. And as a counterpoint, Vitality, who have tried to kind of break the mold in the first couple of weeks, but we see that now maybe people are catching up to them. So maybe that's not the way for them. Maybe this is the right way. And then if they only are good in 3 weeks, then that's fine as well. Or could it be too late?
I mean, for me, when you look at a team like G2, and you're right? I think that they are a team that plays the game properly, but if the event needs it, that star factor comes in. And when you look at these two teams, they're in situations where something just needs to happen. Someone needs to step up. Someone needs to be the person that wins you the game, even when you're playing the game properly. And right now, it's lacking. And in the past, for Misfits, I would have looked at Power of Evil. I would have looked at Ignar. And I'm struggling right now to see the same from Sencux and Mikyx. And for Schalke, I would say the same for Nukeduck, but he seems to be bringing it back, and the same for Chachi. I want to see these guys return to that X-Factor form and be the players that so many fans expected them
All right,
to be.
so I hear Chachi, so name me one player on each team that you think can elevate those teams to a different level.
Well, for me, right now, I'm looking at players like Hansama and Alphari. We've already shown they can be carries, but I want them to take that risk, that slight advantage to just turn the table in your tide. And for the side of Schalke, it has to be Nukeduck and Vizicsacsi for me. I'll never forget the multi-man ultimate that this guy made against TSM at Rift Rivals to shut them down, because he can be that guy. He can be the one that turns things around, and so far this split, I'm yet to really see.
All right, that's what we want to see, because Schalke can tie with Misfits in the standings with a win, and both of them are fighting for those playoffs. Let's see if those teams and what they can pull off as we leave it to Medic and Deficio for picks and bans and Pulsar.
Thank you, Sjokz. I'm still Medic, he's still Deficio. And I'm a little bit dismayed that you didn't bring me like Pulsar or Hot Dog or any of these things before the game.
Fun fact, we had to do a lot of takes of the final Hot Dog because it kept falling to the side.
Your Hot Dog was a little bit floppy. So.
Yes, let's just say it like that. Because what you can do, a little trick, is you can bring a little thing that you can actually sit in, like a little, for taco shells, you know, you can put.
Oh, like a hot dog, like casing.
Yeah, I guess it's called a hot dog casing now. We didn't have that, so I just had to put it on a plate, and then whenever I put stuff on it, it kept like tipping.
That makes sense.
Side. So this was probably like maybe shot number 5.
Okay, I'm going to shut you up now.
That's
we can talk about this again later.
So it stayed.
We've got Schalke and Misfits facing off for our final game of the day, with Schalke playing on the blue side. And Vedius says we need to look at Nukeduck and Vizicsacsi. To me, we need to look at Upset, because although he plays well in the early game, sometimes his late game can let him down.
Yeah, and that's been a problem for Schalke. But close to winning a lot more games than they've actually managed to win here, because they got 4 wins only. Fnatic game was close until they lost, around a Baron. G2 game was so back and forth that the game was over, and then Tristana jumped in and died. Yep. So it feels kind of bad to see this 4-win Schalke lineup when technically they should have had more based on how they've been playing. But I guess if you make individual mistakes, that loses you the game. You don't deserve to win.
And Misfits on the other side haven't fared too much better. 5-5 is their record. Once again, Vedius says Hans Summer and Alphari, and I don't think you can argue too much with that. Hans Summer was being touted as the best AD carry in Europe for a long time this split.
Well, it is true that these two guys have been the main carries. Sencux is the man in the mid lane we always have to look at because Power Vivo was a big damage dealer on Misfits side when he was there last year. Sencux not been the same deal. I still love him on roaming champions. If you can get a Galio, I think that's good for Misfits. Talia could be another pick. Aurelion Sol. I'm just putting some of the roaming champs out there. Also, in the past, Corki. It's actually been something he's been doing well on because his positioning in team fights is pretty good. So I kind of want to see what style Misfits will go towards because they've been trying so many different things. Like, I'm looking at Maxlore specifically. He's played Sejuani, Kha'Zix, Jarvan, Jax, Lee Sin, Zac, and Rengar. So we have some tanks, standard meta. We then have, you know, the Lee Sin and the Rengar, which we don't see from a lot of junglers. Those games didn't go well in the late game where they end up losing. They get ahead early and then fall flat on their face late game.
I think you have to remember the gravity of this game for both these two teams as well. Giants have just won. They're now 6-5. If you want to make playoffs, this is where you need to be beating teams that are around you.
100%.
Both these teams are so closely matched, very even. Schalke 1 game behind, but if they win today, then they even up the score, and then playoffs becomes even more intense for both these guys.
Yeah, last year we had 10 weeks of regular season. We only have 9. 18 total games per team.
8 games left for every team. Well, 7 after this game.
It is not a lot. And losing to the teams just around you in the standings, that always sucks. Sucks even more when the bottom teams have been picking up some wins. Unicorns have won today. Luckily, I guess for the middle of table teams, H3K did lose to Fnatic.
But Giants beat Vitality. That equals up a little bit more. You've got more people coming down.
Spot.
Instead of them being up at the top, they're now in the middle of the pack.
It's so hard right now to predict who's actually making plays.
You only say that because you keep getting your predictions wrong.
No, never.
Excuse me, who predicted that Splice were like the 4th best team in EU?
Regulus convinced us.
Okay, that's what we'll go with now. It's not like you have a decision in these matters at all. Both these teams, though, sitting okay in your power rankings, near the middle of the pack. That's on the EU4 podcast. Of course, you can pick that up on YouTube, SoundCloud, and iTunes as well. Also,
you got to type EU4 podcast on SoundCloud and iTunes to find it.
Yes.
That is important. Otherwise, you might find something else if you just type Euphoria. But enough about that one, Medic.
That's the Eurovision song, isn't it?
Yes,
very
exactly.
Famous Eurovision
That's
song.
very important, very good song.
We are going to get into Champion Select in just a second. If you were to, and this is putting you on the spot slightly, Deficio, so if you don't want to answer, you don't have to answer. But if you were to pick
have to when you ask me.
one champion for each of these two teams that they must pick, their must-get champ, who are you looking at?
Ooh, so Tristana's going to be very contested. That's definitely for sure. I think Galio, especially Misfits, could be super important for them. Chachi and Alphari also can trade Gangplank with each other. It's actually interesting how a lot of the picks both teams might favor seems to be exactly the same. Of course, that is a thing about the meta. You tend to pick the best champions, both teams. But I feel like Misfits and Schalke are two teams who they don't do crazy stuff very often. They try to play it fairly standard in a lot of ways. Misfits do ban away the Galio we just talked about, which I think is important as well.
But actually, Schalke look like they're going forward that Tristana first pick. Out 2 AD carries here.
It's very much, the best AD carries are gone except for Tristana. We want Tristana. I think you can still go Varus against it, and you're fine on Misfits side. They actually used to play really well when Hansama was on things like Varus. Let's see, Camilla's also open. Sejuani's left open in this draft. Gangplank was just banned away by Schalke, taking away from Alphari.
Camille would open it up more towards Chachi being a carry. Ryze opens up more to Nukeduck being a carry.
So they might give Tristana to Misfits.
I think you do. You give Tristana Sejuani over here, don't you, if you're Misfit?
And then I think if you go Varus against that, for Schalke, you go Rageblade versus Infinity Edge. So Rageblade is much stronger on one item. And Schalke with the Ryze can play much faster in the early game. And can really try and snowball on the bottom side with this pick if we get that, Tristana versus Varus. Misfits do not value Tristana. They actually take Ezreal, which it's not been too successful for them because it kind of removes Hansama from being the late game threat they can always rely on. He's individually doing very well on the champion, and he's actually good at using the mid game power spike. But we're still to see, like, in a late game fight, if Misfits can win without Alphari as the main carry. Sorry, without Hansama as the main carry.
I mean, Hansama's played Ezreal twice this split against Unicorns of Love and against Giants. Only won one of them against Unicorns. Played very well in that game, of course, but it's not really what you want your hyper carry, your very aggressive, strong AD carry to be on.
If you can use the mid game well, it's fine. When you get ahead in items because of the Klepto and Ezreal over the enemy AD carry. So in that case, it can be a good answer to something like Tristana, because you are much stronger in the mid game compared to an Infinity Edge double Zeal. Should be Zac here for Pride, would be the standard choice. So I think Misfits looked at the Ryze and said, okay, there's a chance Schalke want to play super fast early on and try and snowball the mid game. Ezreal comes in as one of the counters to that and not the traditional Tristana pick a lot of other European teams would take. Varus is still on the table for Schalke if they want to grab it, or just take Tristana and accept that the mid game AD carry is mismatched.
See a lot of discussion about it. You can see it's an AD carry discussion as well, because Upset's saying, yeah, I think this might be good. This would suit me in this sort of playstyle. It is going to be the Tristana that we thought would have been slightly earlier on in the draft. Now Misfits have a choice of mid laner probably.
So I think now you're seeing on Schalke, they go more towards full late with the Tristana on their side, who then outscales the Ezreal. Misfits match on their side with Azir, who ends up being superior full late game compared to the Ryze. So they're kind of trading mid game versus late game, back and forth on their sides. Mid game for the Ryze, late game for the Azir, and of course swap that around for the AD carry. So interesting pick on ban phase, despite it not being any new picks. Just the way they're kind of trading it. I think Misfits potentially surprised Schalke a little bit with not grabbing Tristana early.
Ornban comes out, Camille still up, of course, comes all the way through to the second ban phase, but with only top laners and supports being left, I would expect Camille to get removed in this portion of the bans.
Unless Misfits will grab it first and then last pick support.
Yeah.
Is a possibility, so they get to see the full bot lane matchup on the side of Schalke. Taric, amazing with things like Zac. Could be a good choice for Schalke down the bottom lane. Alistar still left open in this one, and Tahm Kench still contested. If you look at a lot of the EU teams.
Cho'Gath gets taken away as well by Misfits. Now Schalke, decisions to make. Do you get rid of Camille? Do you get rid of maybe the Tahm Kench as well to make that lane perhaps slightly harassable in the bottom side of the map?
Yeah.
You can tell there's a degree of tension in this pick and ban phase. Lots of time being taken over the decisions. Lots of counterplay between the two coaches.
Also have to remember Gnar is left open in this draft. Something both top laners have picked fairly often during this split. And when you ban two tanks away from... if they lock
I would
this
love
in,
this.
It's actually, it would be smart because it's used as a pick against Gnar specifically. So it does kind of block that a little bit from Vizicsacsi. And it's still a very good tank in the top lane. We can talk a lot more about Sion in the game. The reason we do talk about Hover in this case is because it's actually a real pick. NA already played it. We've seen it in the LCK as well. It is a good top lane pick. Very strong laning phase. And as I said, good in lane against Gnar. So they're trying to block more champions from Vizicsacsi.
So apart from the Trundle,
old school Trundle, man.
Tank Shredder.
Yeah, there we go.
What he was always picked to do, and it's going to be locked in. Could of course be support, but I doubt it. I assume VandeR's going to pick the Taric for himself here.
Yeah, I like that. We already talked about Taric with the Zac, and Sion engages are fairly predictable.
Incredibly predictable.
He literally turns into a car and smacks into you. So Taric clicks ulti when the all-in happens and can prevent a lot of damage. And suddenly Schalke's composition makes a lot of sense. They get a Trundle in the top lane, works really well against both Sejuani and Sion. And you also have the Taric to try and counter the all-in engage from Sion. And that's kind of the thing about Sion specifically, is it kind of only goes one way. And that's smack in your face.
Right in. Have to look at the scaling here as well, because we said, you know, Azir outscales Ryze. Tristana scales into late game better than the Ezreal does. Is that affected at all by the support picks or the top lane? Is Trundle going to scale better than a Sion?
I think Sion falls off a bit in the late game, and especially now against a guy who can steal insane amount of stats from me like him or the Sejuani. I actually like Taric late game also. I think he's fantastic scaling support just because his team fighting power is so impactful with the ulti and the fact he can spam heal so often, especially if he goes tier. So I think the late game looks very strong on Schalke's side. Not that Misfits playing horribly or will have a horrible late game team fight, but I think the Sion and the Ezreal makes it a little bit harder for Misfits to play the late game fights.
Misfits and Schalke, they're two teams on the precipice of failure. Misfits with a one-year plan. now done. They're finished with their one-year plan. It's over. They're trying to find a way back into the LCS. Schalke downtrodden over 5 weeks of play. They just can't find their footing. It's never easy to come back from a loss. It's never easy to wipe off the dirt, stand up and look the demons that defeated you in the eye. To say to your doubters, not this time, not today. Just remember, failure isn't fatal, but failure to change might be. Phoenix must burn to emerge from the ashes. Let's see which team burns brighter today, Deficio. Onto the Summoner's Rift. It's tense.
Ooh.
I have to say that because I just gave this like rousing, tense monologue.
I wanted to let you say it, so you had your moment.
Thank you.
Two teams.
It would have helped if my client hadn't come up in the middle of it and lost my words.
Oh, because you scripted this.
Yeah, of course I scripted
I thought
everything in the
heart,
LCS
man.
is scripted.
I thought it came from the heart. Medic, that's Schalke's upcoming schedule. That's not an easy one. Splice, Vitality, Fnatic. They play Misfits today. They just went 0-2 last week. Schalke, if they don't beat Misfits now, they're in serious danger of missing playoffs, which would be a giant failure for this organization.
An organization that put a lot of time and effort into having a good supporting structure, that said we want our staff in place, we want the play area in place, an office for our team to practice at, we want the good supporting staff as well. They need to get to the playoffs. If they don't, as you say, it will just be a failure for them.
Well, same story, honestly, for Misfits. After Worlds, the great performance, quarterfinal, best of 5, all these kind of awesome things. If you then go into the next split and you don't make playoffs, also seen as a big failure. And that's what makes the ELCS so exciting now, is you have so many teams packed together, all competing for playoff spots. At the moment, as you guys can see at the top of your screen, Schalke only picked up 4 wins. Misfits 5. So Schalke already a step behind, can even it out with Misfits. Alphari is actually hiding in the bottom lane. Look at this.
Gets a knock up on to VandeR. Now he's going to have to teleport top.
Okay, I guess I was hoping they kind of would rush into the lane.
You grabbed me by the arm in an excited manner.
Yeah, I saw top laner sitting in the bot lane.
He's now behind Sjokz in the lane, who's got 6 CS, as you would expect. Alphari has gone Glacial Augment and then Resolve here on the Sion.
Yeah, so there are 2 options really on Sion for Keystone. Either you go Comet, which is better for laning, poke, so good against like Gnar and these range matchups. Or you go Glacial Augment, which is better against the melee matchups because you can actually apply the slow a lot easier. Suddenly, it allows you to set up your knock-up, it allows you to set up potential ganks. And Glacial Augment also, funny enough, with your passive, actually can work really well. So Alphari in this case, because he's against a melee matchup, goes for Glacial Augment, wants more utility, more CC for himself. And it is a lot with these melee attacks.
Interestingly, Chachi's gone for the minion dematerializer on the other side. Grasping the Undying, then the Inspiration Tree, pushes up the wave.
Nice little bonus early game. I think more importantly for him, getting the additional bonus damage on minions for the entire game long. The 4% increase after you use it on first, like I say, a melee minion, then a ranged minion, then a cannon. You get the increase on all kinds of minions for the entire game long. Pride, knocks up.
Sencux tried to jump away, has to use the cleanse and the flash. Nukeduck continues to get some damage down.
There's been a classic strategy for a lot of teams against Misfits. Early gank Sencux mid. They managed to get both summoners because he got knocked up when he tried to dash out. Here we get the standings. We just talked about them before. Notice how Splice, Rocket, Misfits, and Schalke so close to each other. 1 win behind Giant, so that doesn't even mean that much.
But only 2 wins behind Vitality now as well, who have been struggling and have a difficult lineup. So you're looking down to 8th spot for playoff position.
Right, and then also, let's say Schalke lose this game, 4-7. Bottom teams, 1 win behind you only. So it makes this entire race so important. Every game matters. They get a flash shot.
Pride's ganking again. Pulls back Alphari with the stretching strike, and Vizicsacsi and Pride are looking for the kill. Maxlore's here to distract them.
So not only did Alphari fall behind early because he was sitting bot lane, he now gets forced to go back without teleport because he was used to go to the lane after level 1. This sucks. Alphari hates his life right now. He's on a tank, he's against the Trundle, and he's really far behind.
That's incredibly difficult for you to play in the top lane. CS advantage for Hansamo in the bottom lane. Yeah, Ezreal into Tristana, working well for them for the time being, and that Kleptomancy is just going to get them some more gold.
Sjokz just slowly push it, let the cannon die, of course, Alphari won't even get it. And when Sjokz goes back, TP is ready. Returns to lane instantly. Nukeduck.
Nukeduck gets caught out, heal comes out straight away, but he's going to get stunned. Sencux slides in, and Nukeduck has nowhere to go. First blood to Sencux.
Oh, so Nukeduck didn't have his jungler around him and then went to place a ward over the wall, but Maxlore read the situation. That was one of the easiest ganks for him, and great timing on the early game stats for him, because this man, he's forcing everything. He's getting the advantages from Misfits early. It's been a great strength of Maxlore so far this split, but late game, Misfits have lost a lot of games, despite being ahead early. Let's see what happens now, bot lane.
You got the jump away from upset, so should be okay for him to get away.
Burn some mana.
Yeah, that's important. It's always important to burn mana.
This was basically the easiest gank Max has ever pulled off. The enemy mid laner walks into him, and the jungler is not close enough to actually do something, so Victor just dies.
And Sencux did bring in 2 soldiers, so it was a 4v1. It's a little bit unfair on Nukeduck.
Oh, important to note also that Nukeduck sat on heal.
Yeah.
So no cleanse to try and get out of whatever CC lands onto him.
Has the unsealed spellbook, so he could change that later on, but for the moment, staying with the heal in the lane. Sencux going to get jumped on here by Pride. He's done a good job ganking thus far, pulls him back with a long arm of the law.
It's been the most active early game from Pride.
Yep.
Loves to farm, loves to take his time, loves to only show up when the lane is ready to set up the perfect gank for him. This one, 3 early ganks so far. Nukeduck needs it, of course, after dying early. Meanwhile, Sjokz 10 CS ahead up top lane. He will already get level 6 very, very soon. Alphari will be stuck level 5. Schalke can look for tower dives once Sjokz gets slightly stronger in that top lane.
It's very interesting to see the Trundle, because it's been so long since we last saw him, and they both hit level 6 around the same time, so Alphari should be okay.
Oh, I actually thought he would be further down, but
somehow picks up some experience. Trundle's job when it comes to, the lane is really, harass down, push in, you get the Tiamat, can trade into Alphari with the subjugate now that he's level 6. But as we get later into the game, it becomes less concrete what a Trundle should be doing.
It's always good if you can stick to side lanes as Trundle. We talked about a tower dive. They're looking for it. Maxlore's reading the situation again.
Not 6 yet. Nukeduck is in from the side as well. There's the pillar of filth.
And this is very, very important. The fact that Maxlore, okay, the most obvious place for them to go now is top. No flash on Alphari. If he dies again, he dies now, and then he falls even further behind in this lane. So I think Maxlore being topside and ready to react is very important. Schalke can look for the same play, because Sjokz didn't even use anything. They can go for the exact same setup. You talked about Trundle before, though. Again, we all know why he's such a great tank. Kill the ult, he takes away stats, he gets sustained from his passive. The tanks can't kill him because, again, they can't poke him out of lane. Because of it, he can build items that just destroys a minion wave instantly, and then if he gets to a turret, he just bites the turret and it dies. He's just an amazing split push against tanks, and that's where he ideally wants to sit, because he's a weaker team fighter in some cases. But if he gets in early, puts a great ulti down on a tank, he becomes basically unkillable, and still does provide serious damage and good CC with the pillar.
And it helps your tank killers to kill those tanks as well.
Exactly.
They lose all of those stats. You've got upset on maybe a 2-3 item Tristana at that point. He can definitely down Maxlore. Try and get some vision in this jungle. Trading into Pride as well. Sencux is the quicker of the mid laners to react, but Chachi's on his way down as well. Here's the Realm Warp. Upset jumps in. Maxlore flashes away. Upset with an aggressive flash. Nukeduck puts a nuke prison down. And Schalke get a kill.
Great call right there with everything used to secure the kill. 2 summoners gone, flashes on the 2 carries. Meanwhile, I think Mikyx and Hansamo were actually moving behind the dragon to see if they could join the fight, but then realized they've already lost it and had to just go back down to the bottom lane.
No Abyssal Voyage on Mikyx as well means they can't come across as quickly as perhaps they would have liked.
See the play once again. So Maxlore invades in, but Vizicsacsi's already left the top lane and walked down. So Sencux and Maxlore, they're backing away. They realize the enemy bot lane shows up first. Upset, I think, tried to get the stun from Taric to connect, but in the end, doesn't matter. They get the kill. Important for him because he only went back and got tier 2 boots against tier and pickaxe for Hansamo, so they've not been able to win the bottom lane. Hansamo's been farming extremely well, just basically every single game.
Yeah, tends to have quite a high CS lead at the 10-minute mark. Not always because he's farming better than other AD carries, but because he forces his enemy AD carry behind on farm. So his enemies have the lowest CS at 10 minutes of any AD carries in the league.
And if he can go back, he'll upgrade the tier, get a Sheen. He goes against a champion that wants to build Infinity Edge double ZL items. Ezreal is in that mid game, as we talked about in Champ Select, is just so much more powerful. So that's where Misfits can play around bottom side. Play around Hansama, secure the early Drakes, get bot lane turret, and use this Ezreal to snowball the game. Because as we talked about full late game, Schalke's comp is very well equipped to deal with what Misfits brings to the table.
Schalke will be okay, just stalling it out for a while. They've got good vision control of the river that Alphari will now realize is there. Of course, roaming potential on Sion is pretty magnificent with the unstoppable onslaught. He can join a fight from any which angle.
Do your mid laner a favor in solo queue and ward that little brush in the middle of the river to the top side if you're against Sion top lane. Because he will eventually ult down toward mid. And pings, they don't work.
Here's the problem for me though, Vedius is my duo queue partner, and I'm not sure when he plays mid I actually want to protect him that much. I'm not sure he's worth the investment of gold that the ward would cost me.
Can you at least tell him to buy the control ward?
Yeah, but he just doesn't listen.
Ah.
Yeah.
Mid laners, man.
I know, right? Schalke trying to get some vision around the dragon. They realize that Misfits will want to go and try and secure the early Drakes, try and get that lead for the Ezreal. And they will deny it as much as they can. Schalke have looked great as a team at times. They've looked like one of the best teams in the league at points.
Very important to note, only for parts of the game.
Yes, but if they could combine all the parts, like first 10 minutes from this game, second 10 minutes from this game, last 10 minutes from this game, they'd be a perfect team division. Just need that
almost
combination. They're going to get an Ocean Drake as well. Good vision control, push back in the bottom lane, and Schalke get an Ocean Drake at 11 minutes.
Yeah, and great. They get it before Hansama went back, because Hansama's sitting on 2,000 gold at the moment. Didn't get to use that at all. Oh, even interrupts that one.
This is something we see from Upset. He's not afraid of stepping into the face of the enemy.
And it's really important if you get free time at a turret as Tristana, because you just destroy it. So far, Hansama is forced to not recall, because if he does, the turret maybe just dies. Because it's Tristana on the other side, so he stays. Both AD carries are sitting with like 2,500 gold at the moment, but the Tristana just keeps applying pressure. Hansama's trying again to recall. He's out of mana.
See, Sencux usually struggles in lane. He's 10 CS or more behind at the 5-minute mark. Hansama's just backed and got himself the Sheen and the Mana Moon.
That's the back we talk about that could be so important for Misfits if they want to play around the bottom side. It's hard for them to deal with top unless they set up a tower dive. That's one of the things you can do with Sion top. He is very effective at tower diving, because worst case you pop the passive and then you trade 1-for-1, but your jungler can maybe get some damage on the turret or deny CS. And the ult into his Q is great CC in small little areas.
The big mismatch in that bottom lane now. BF sword, Kerchi's shard, and a speedy dagger. I've forgotten what it's called. It's called a dagger.
That's just called dagger, yeah.
For some reason I thought dagger was longsword for a second, but it is just a dagger. And against the Mana Moon and Sheen, Misfits will want to play down towards that bottom side, but Alphari just used his ult to get back into the lane. So it doesn't have as much effect as perhaps he would want.
He's trying to prevent falling even further behind, which it's been a rough early game for poor Alphari up in that top lane. Everything kind of backfired for him. TP is available for both sides. There is a ward behind Misfits on the bottom side, if they want to use it.
No pressure from Maxlore down towards that bottom side yet. And I want to bring up a further point about Schalke, because last week they played up against Fnatic. They had a relatively good early to mid game. Like, until the 28-minute mark, they were doing very well here, Deficio.
Yeah, it was dead even. And then Upset got poked in the mid lane. He died. As you guys can see, their death percentage is extremely high for Upset. So he has a large amount of Schalke's deaths.
9th is bad.
It's very bad. You don't want to be, 9th or 10th here. You definitely want to be first, so you barely die. And when you're playing a AD carry who often goes to the late game, and it comes down to these really tight fights, if you die so much, you cost your team a lot. And it's happening in a few games. And I actually find Schalke to be one of the hardest teams to properly judge when it comes to their overall level, because it is these really dumb individual mistakes that cost them so much. And it feels like they're still good, but then they keep losing, and you're like, well, maybe they're not. But then, this is going pretty well, and then mistake happens.
Yeah.
Chachi will get his turret eventually on top side. Meanwhile, bot lane, that Ezreal is trying to do some work on the turret. You can see how both teams have just shifted to the bottom side. See if they can actually defend the bot lane turret for Schalke, while Chachi gets the first turret top lane. That's kind of what Schalke are waiting for now.
Nukeduck and Sencux very even in
He's
that
spotted,
mid lane.
though.
He can come up here with a Realm Warp, of course. Maybe just to force Alphari back.
Yeah, Alphari can run away, worst case ult, but get the first turret. Meanwhile, Misfits cross map on the other side. Pride is down there, but we know Alphari can TP down as well. And it's actually 3v3 defending, because Sencux is still in mid. He did not move from mid lane.
Chachi can come down as well. Hansama caught out with a stun. Eaten up by Mikyx. Bit of stomach acid to wake him up from that. And Misfits still unable to get the tower. Chachi's still pushing in the top lane. Now recalls.
Sencux doing the same. He did not go for damage on mid turret. He did not join his team bot lane for that one. He just used the time to go back to base, get a nice little recall, and return to lane without losing a lot. So Misfits not trying to be greedy for turrets. They backed away. They lost the top lane one. This Trundle is ahead in CS. Titanic already completed. Alphari can't touch him. That Trundle is such an issue for Misfits.
And you think back to the Misfits draft, and they brought this Sion out. They're like, I don't think they've got an answer. I don't think they can deal with it.
I think he just
like,
the Gnar.
yeah, they were thinking he'd lock the Gnar. And Chachi's like, excuse me, I've been playing for quite a while. I have a lot of champions in my pool. They bring out the Trundle, and it seems to have just totally counteracted whatever Misfits wanted to do with this Sion.
And what you can try and do with Sion is, if you ever get a push in your lane, leave the lane and go mid. And just look to force a fight with your ult, because that's what Misfits want to do. It's 5-on-5 team fighting with this draft. Later on in the game, Tahm, Kench, and Azir, sadly, means that it's hard for Tahm Kench to sit mid and hold mid lane with his AD carry and then ult to the side lanes, because Azir is holding mid. And he wants all the farm, he wants all the experience. You can try and group up with him and use Tahm Kench ulti, but it's hard. Let's see what happens mid.
Sencux just going to put a wall of soldiers between him and his enemy. Misfits do use the mid-game power of Hansama to get the top tower, but Schalke are trying to push in the mid lane and push in the bottom lane as well, so they are winning this trade at the moment. Mountain Drake up soon.
Well, Misfits, if they just get Rift Hill plus turret and only lose the bottom one, I give it to them. I think that was a good play on top side. Schalke are behind on the play at the moment, and I don't think they can get more, because Hansama and Mikyx can just ult with the Tahm Kench and show up in time. So Misfits, they were ahead of the play here. They get 2 objectives for 1. And now it's actually going to be bottom side for when Drake spawns.
So they may even get 3.
They don't have to give up the Drake. They can contest it now.
So many control wards being picked up by both teams as well. Misfits control total vision. Iceborne Gauntlet just finished on Hansama, so he's at that 2-item spike we talked about.
And because Schalke was behind on the first play, you guys can see after they killed the bot lane tower, they had to then recall and go back and be ready for a fight. Well, that meant Misfits returns to the map much, much faster. Great play from Misfits. Good use of tempo advantage. Turret, Rift Held, Drake, and not really losing a lot in return other than 1 bot lane tower.
And it's a 30-second difference between the two teams. It's not big differentials that cause these sorts of things. Maxlore secures the Mountain Drake, and the crowd goes wild. Misfits now with a dragon on that Ezreal, 2 items. You've got Nash's Tooth on Sencux.
I think Alphari could have recalled bot lane a little bit earlier and gone top, but it's fine. Vizicsacsi has to back away because they lost mid lane control. And Misfits gets to pick up a big wave for Hansama. Now, funny enough, Chachi can just go mid and get a man advantage for Schalke mid lane. Sadly, there's an Azir who can always wave clear, and that's the beauty of Azir, I guess.
See, Misfits, although they haven't won many games recently, their early game has been very strong.
Yeah.
Consistently ahead at that 20-minute mark.
Some of these leads are because they've been picking some more early game junglers to try and force some plays with, and then late game they kept team fighting instead of actually playing around a 1-3-1 split push. That kind of hurt them. We get this play from Chachi I just talked about, where because he pushes top first, he gets to go mid while Misfits are defending top.
They don't get the tower though. Cosmic Vedius comes down and Mikyx going to eat up Chachi. Spits him back towards the turret. Pride on that front line now. The golden comes out. Wall as well. Chachi just trying to run away, but Misfits are pounding down a lot of damage, and Hansama secures the kill.
Finally, Alphari gets to play League of Legends when he joins that mid lane.
There's the Rift Herald as well.
Can't get out. Yeah, so now they're tricked. I love this. Both teams are like, okay, now I have the advantage, the numbers advantage, so I'm going to make a play. And then the other team gets to respond right after with a counterplay. And this counterplay, 5-man mid, win the fight for Misfits, get the Rift down. Didn't even take damage yet. That was 2 big ones.
They're going to get 2 towers in the mid lane just off a single pick. They will. The Misfits now a 2,000 gold lead at the 20-minute mark, and just to prove our graphic right, they continue to have the lead at 20 minutes. Schalke are behind, however, they do not mind too much being behind right now. As you can see here, Sjokz, Cosmic Radiance comes down, they try and protect him, Nukeduck thinks he can get it, but here comes the Sion, and Alphari is able to do a lot of work. Schalke just can't get close enough to keep Sjokz alive.
You can't get out as Trundle once the flash is gone, and there's a million types of CC just keeping you down. This Ezreal is extremely strong. This is exactly what you need to do as an Ezreal team. Abuse the strong mid game. I think Schalke, the play they made with push top, Sjokz moves down was fine. And they were like 2 seconds away from just getting turret and walk away. But then you get the engage from Misfits, and suddenly Schalke, they get caught with the pants down, and then you lose 2 turrets.
So it's about the team fighting for Misfits. That's exactly what they can do. They
It's the whole
catch
purpose
someone
of
out.
this.
They can do a lot of work. Execution is calling now on Hansama alongside the Bilgewater Cutlass. Let's look at the rest of the map as well, because we focus a lot on AD carry itemization. Abyssal Mask, Seraph's completed on Nukeduck. Top lane is pretty even in terms of items.
Well, we get the kind of setup where Hansama and Mikyx goes top together. Mikyx literally just protecting this super strong Ezreal. And they can always go mid with the Tahm Kench ulti. They can't really swap around every lane because Tahm Kench is stuck top side. But I think Misfits, they're happy enough with how this game has been going so far.
Just getting some deep vision in here as well, clearing out any wards that Schalke may have. Next Dragon is an Infernal. You can see Sjokz pushes up that bottom lane, realizes he can come across and try and help out Schalke.
It's going to be big in these fights, as you just highlighted as well.
Unstoppable came out there. That
He's
blocked
fine. He's
the
fine.
prison. It is fine, as you say. But it's good to tell people why he's fine.
You are correct. I was going to more say he was fine, but then I said it's fine, and I'm sorry.
You shouldn't objectify a Zac like that.
Did not want to interrupt you there, Medic. You are the bigger man.
I was going to say in more ways than one. Mostly because I get more predictions,
very large
right?
feed.
Very large feed.
Very large feed.
You can see the vision darts. Baron is live. 22 minutes in, Misfits have a slither of a lead.
And we know Misfits can try and kill Sjokz first. That execution is calling you called out. Very, very good, of course, against all the Trundle healing. The healing from Taric as well. Heck, the healing from Zac. Like, it's just a great item here from Hansama. So Misfits in the fight can just, with Azir and Ezreal, kill the first target. They don't have to actually dive the backline at all, because they are so strong at this point in the game with the 2 carries. We're just kind of waiting for that to fight. This is exactly how I expected Schalke and Misfits to play. It's slow. They don't take big risks in what they're doing. They're trying a lot to kind of use these, like, what we call the windows or the tempo advantages, where I push first and you defend. Now I go make a play while you are grabbing the minion wave, and I have a numbers advantage. And they constantly try and trade against each other. But because Misfits won that mid lane fight, it's in their favor. They're starting Baron 22 minutes, and Schalke, 4 members around, Sjokz is TPing in.
4,000 HP. Here comes the TP. They jump onto Nukeduck. Can't get away from the unstoppable onslaught, and the axe comes down. Stunned. Radiance won't keep him alive, and now Schalke in a 4v5 as Misfits turn around and face down the enemy. Sjokz locked up with a great decimating smash. He's stunned. He's done. Schalke lose 2, and Misfits can turn back towards the Baron.
And Misfits, they just wanted a fight, and they wanted to teleport from Vizicsacsi. They got both. They now also get the Baron. Great call from Misfits, full control topside, instant turret. 4 members of Schalke were standing together, 1 member was standing alone. And they jump Nukeduck. There is no stopwatch Ryze ulti anymore. It's dead. As a Ryze, if you get caught out, this time you get punished.
Made similar mistakes on day 1 last week.
Oh, that was just way too greedy from Nukeduck ulting in. I thought actually he just ran in at first and then got engaged on, but he ends up coming in all alone. And we talked about the sign engage being so powerful because he just rushes straight at you. And of course, Mikyx sets it up first with the Tahm Kench. Big, big play from Misfits, and it's falling apart for Schalke again.
Infernal Drake's there as well. They can just secure this one now. You look at the damage differential. Nukeduck did barely nothing in that last fight. An Infernal and a Mounted on the Misfits. 3,000 gold ahead, 24 minutes in. We said we wanted them to play around the mid-game. We said we wanted them to play around the Ezreal, and they are doing exactly that.
Very few teams in Europe can fully utilize an Ezreal comp, but we are seeing Misfits do it so well. knowing when to be aggressive, when to force fights because they're stronger. The same with the Sion. We talk about how good he is in the start of the game, first few tank items. Strong engage, deals decent damage. And it just forces Schalke now to be so passive. Nukeduck needs to recall on top side. This inhib turret is down to 50% HP.
And someone willing to stand on the front line, knows he's got Mikyx to protect him and the arcane shift if he wants to get away.
Oh,
Talked about
stayed.
players that need to step up. We said Chachi, we said Nukeduck for Schalke. This game they have not quite done that. Upset still there, still building up towards the 3-item Tristana, but Misfits don't want to let the game get that far.
Can actually get down this inhib turret. Nukeduck is recalling now. And they got it.
Inhib tower goes down.
And that's so big. Get the inhib on the first Baron at least. Try and get some more map pressure through the super minions. They're staying around. They can. They got double cannon right here.
Nukeduck looking for a pick on Hansama. The inhibitor's gonna fall. The Misfits get the inhib at 25 minutes.
And the gauge we're kind of looking for is Pride jumps in. Taric stun follows when Pride hits towards Misfits' backline. But ideally for Schalke, they don't have to engage head on because they got the Trundle. And Trundle then always wins side lane, joins the fight first, steals tank stats from Maxlore Alphari, and they just kill the front line. But now they've fallen so far down, and especially because they have this AD carry who's of course much weaker than the 3.5 item Ezreal, they can't really win the fight because they don't kill the enemy front line faster than Misfits kills their front line. And that's always the biggest problem when you have these double carry setups where they gotta kill tanks first. If you can't do it as fast as the enemy, you can't win fights.
I think we have to highlight Sencux this game as well. We've been always saying quite regularly that he hasn't been playing as well as a mid laner for Misfits should be playing. This game, evenish in lane, 1-0-2 on the Azir now, positioning well in fights, getting good walls down, doing his job very well.
Yeah, lost both summoners very early on in that lane due to Pride's gank, so he kept up. Meanwhile, Misfits got a great Baron call, but usually using it well to get bot lane inhib. There's only one out of turret left. Like, it's been a very clean game on Misfits' side. And it all really started with first a great play to get top turret, Drake plus Rift Herald, using their tempo advantage over Schalke. And then after that play in the mid lane, which actually was Schalke's response to the play from Misfits, they then got countered again, and they lost everything.
Dazzle comes out, but not going to connect onto anyone. Chachi gets caught. There's the Cosmic Radiance. Pride jumps in, but he doesn't have the immunity. Schalke have to just back away from the tower. Two-shot barrage connects on a couple of minions.
And they can't get onto the carries, and these carries kills the front line too fast, so Schalke can't really team fight. Misfits get another turret for themselves. They are in full control. Chachi is unable to split push because his team is losing.
Once again, for Schalke, it's one of those games that's even to a point and then just collapses under their feet, and their playoff hopes might be doing just that as well. The Dazzle is going to connect, but only onto 2. Stretching strike. Schalke, last chance saloon for them, but Nukeduck's going to rain down L from the side of this fight. Misfits forced away.
Oh, he's still alive.
Shuffle comes out. Upset still looking for a jump. Hansama the flash. Nice. Double stun. Nukeduck on the side here as well. Mickey eats up his Ezreal to try and keep him alive. But Schalke are not relenting. They're not giving up hope. The Realm Warp in. Hansama caught Nukeduck there. 2 kills. And now Schalke can continue to push. Sencux puts down a wall to divide. But Upset is having none of that. Doesn't kill Sencux, but gets the reset onto Maxlore. Gonna pop the blast cone as well. The Dazzle, the stun. Upset on a tear through Misfits.
That was the perfect fight. Schalke, they waited for Upset to complete that second Zeal item and said, okay, now he's strong enough to fight. And then, great engage in. We start seeing some of the damage they can deal to the tanks on Misfits' side. And the chase after. Great stuns from VandeR. Let's see the whole thing again. So, Tristana's 3 items now. Engage comes in perfectly. Gets a good stun here. They're hitting front line, and Pride buys a lot of time with that ulti. Not only is he staying alive, he also knocks the front line further towards Schalke. And now the tanks are low. It's exactly what we mentioned with the pick and ban phase. How Upset can deal so much damage if Chachi is there as well with his ult. And of course, because the tanks can't be in the front line, Misfits have to run away or they all die. Great chase from Schalke's side. Super important to try and get this game to full late game.
You can see Upset here. That's what aggressive AD carry play can do. You can clean up fights. Look at the damage.
It's all about him, baby. It's all about this Tristana. Ezreal had the great mid game. the Tristana suddenly shows what she can do once she gets the 3 items completed. There's a lot of armor still on the side of Misfits. We will get later on. Last Whisper comes in. Standings, we're looking at it once again because it's so important for the playoff race between Schalke and Misfits. Schalke cannot afford to lose here and fall further behind the top 6 teams.
It's the precipice of failure. You're staring into a chasm of loss, of not making your 1-year plan work, not making the dream. Losing today would just put them... You have to feel out of reach of playoffs.
Oh, not really.
I think that, like, we talked about their difficult matches coming up. Yes, they can still win all their games left.
There are still a bunch of teams who are sitting on 5 wins.
Yeah.
You know, one of them is in playoffs currently, if you look at the current top 6.
That's true.
I
feel they would be close to out of reach. We'll go with close. Close to out of reach. You can disagree.
That's fine.
I disagree that you put Splice 4th in your power rank.
Yeah, that's fine too. That's fine. I'll take that one. I deserve that one.
So, damage dealt to champions the entire game. Now, Upset was at 10,000 before that fight, of course.
Yeah.
Did 7,000 and has surpassed Han Summer. You can see Nukeduck didn't really get that mid-game Ryze popping off at any point.
Yeah, and he wasn't there for most of the fight we had before. It was a lot of just Tristana damage, but it's just gonna come down to team fights now. We know the split pushing is so hard to set up for Chachi because the team has, you know, been pushed down so far, but he's fine in fights because he's against these tanks. He can steal the stats. It's gonna be so interesting watching these two teams just team fight and team fight and team fight.
Have to remember double Infernal and a Mountain Drake
one.
on Misfits, so they're in a very good spot. Elder is up next, Baron is live. There's a lot of different areas of the map where we might see those team fights come out. Still no Last Whisper for Upset, so isn't going to be able to shred through too much armor, but we always have the Subjugate from Vizicsacsi that can help with that problem.
Last Whisper would still definitely help for good old Tristana.
Ardent Sensor and VandeR here as well.
Just buff him up. Just go. This is your moment, man. He's had so many games where he got to the late game and everything went wrong for him, but this is the moment. This is why he was the first member Schalke signed and built the roster around him. He said, this guy, he's a young kid, he's a rookie, but he can carry late game fights and we need to see it.
On the other side, who are we looking at? Sencux, Han Summer.
Mainly,
Alphari engages possibly as well.
It's hard for him unless he finds someone out of position because he engages into a Taric ult. Pride is jumping in.
Han Summer caught out, can't jump away, does get across the wall. Nukeduck from the side as well. All of Schalke grouped up. Misfits sense that they just want to get away from this because Han Summer has had to burn his flash.
Nukeduck forces rest of Misfits away. That was a good engage from Pride, came from out of vision. And yeah, as you highlighted there, Han Summer losing flash is huge. Pride and the rest of Schalke, they get Baron control now.
Pride has had some really good jumps in on this Zac. It's a much stronger performance from him after some weak performances early in the split. Doing a lot better job on this tanky jungler.
They don't start it yet. They push mid once again. In the Baron pit, there is a control ward denying the vision from Misfits side.
Side lanes pushing for Schalke as well.
Yeah, so push mid, get the side lanes going. Then you can go in and start Baron. If you start it, Pride gets to engage again. Ulti is ready. VandeR stun is ready. Schalke can start the Baron here and always look for the fight.
Started up. True Shot Barrage comes in as well. The Misfits trying to stop Schalke in their tracks. Teleports coming in behind them, as you say. VandeR still has the ultimate. They're going to turn on to Alphari, but the big knock-up, the decimating smash. Cosmic Radiance stops them, though, and Alphari has to flash away. Schalke just going to back away for the time being. They've got the teleport. That's all they wanted.
Look how fast Alphari actually got burned down the moment he was standing in the entire Schalke team. And that ulti from VandeR came up huge. TP now used by Misfits. It is available for Chachi. Oh, they get Mikyx!
Gun onto Mickey. He was back and can flash the wall. Upset won't chase any further. But delaying the backs is always important because the side waves are still pushing in favor of Schalke. And now they're going to get vision once again around the Baron. Maybe it's just the steal. Maybe it's just Maxlore doing what we saw him do at Worlds, stealing Barons. That might be all that this game comes down to. Both teams eager for a win. The knock-up on Pride. Misfits stepping forward, unstoppable onslaught doesn't connect, but Pride is now in the front line. The double knock-up, Pride falls into the globules. He's going to have to come back alive. Alphari down. Can he do anything with the glory of death? The teleport from Chachi, the stun. Nukeduck zoning out the rest of Misfits, and Schalke take down the top laner.
Yeah, mid lane. Let's see what they can do there. Will they push for a turret? Meanwhile, top. Turret already died due to minions. Nope, Schalke just pushes in the wave, goes straight to the Baron. I like that call. Don't chase turrets here. Get the big objective so you can then get the entire base of Misfits. Maxlore is around.
No control ward in the pit as well, so if Maxlore has some way of scouting this one out.
Pillar can interrupt his
happening.
dash. He has no flash, remember that.
VandeR jumps across, looking for the dazzle. Stun hits Mikyx, though. The rest of Misfits don't want to give this one up. Maxlore up towards the top side.
It's a big
Mikyx,
one.
Hansama on Chachi. The subjugate comes down. VandeR's low. He's taken out, and now Misfits are winning the fight. But Nukeduck's trying to turn it around. He wants to carry Schalke to those playoffs. It's on Upset. Jumps forward, Realm. Hansama! Upset does work. Gets a double. Looking for the triple here as well. Maxlore has nowhere to go. And Upset says, not today to Misfits.
Crazy back and forth here. Schalke did not want to risk the 50-50 Baron, so they take a fight. It looked fine for Misfits at first when they stopped Schalke from actually getting the Baron, but then we get the turnaround. Nukeduck deals a ton of damage, and then the AD carry jumps in. Cleans house. Schalke are now pushing for the finish. Alphari and Sencux are here. Now I think Schalke actually just have to say, you know what? There's an ADC alive. Let's step away, get double in it, because the minions did some serious work top lane.
We mentioned the pushing lanes a mile ago, and it just kept pushing and pushing and pushing, and Schalke have that sixth man on their side. Now can look for the Baron as well. And I don't think Misfits are going to be able to react to this.
Early in this game, roughly 10 minutes ago, Misfits controlled it. Used the Ezreal power spike, got the first Baron, took a bot lane inhib. Everything looked great, but then when the Tristana picked up 3 items, Schalke won the next fight. And now here we are. This is a lot earlier. Sion goes in, takes a ton of damage, doesn't really go out because he's Sion, he only goes one way. We have a ton of damage from Tristana and Ryze. Well, that's 1 kill already. Pride gets to stay alive due to the TP, goes on to his passive. This is then the follow-up. Here they could stun Maxlore, Trundle Pillar, something to stop from getting in, but when everything kind of goes wrong for them and suddenly there's too many things happening, they just end up saying, let's disengage. And here it actually looks fine for Misfits. They get a kill on VandeR, but they take a lot of damage from Nukeduck. He's the one man in the front now. And then it's a Tristana. Oh, is that some members on low HP? Reset, in, get 1 kill, 2 kills, 3 kills.
And Upset jumping forward this time has actually got Schalke a monumental advantage now. Baron buff, 2,000 gold ahead. GA finished on Upset alongside a Mercurial Scimitar.
And top lane is still a problem for Misfits. Big minion wave, this time with super minions, going for them Nexus turrets. They need to rush this Elder Drake. They might have to. Oh, actually, look at Schalke.
There's Realm Warp. There's Realm Warp.
They're going for
They're just going to warp. They're going for the win. Misfits have to back away. Hansama stopped by the Elder Dragon, and now Schalke can just look for the win.
They got
2 Nexus towers between them and the game. Double super minions up here as well. Sencux, Mikyx, can you do anything to stop Schalke in their tracks? I do not think so, because Schalke have emerged from the ashes of this game and Ryze to take their spot near playoffs.
And we get to see Schalke executing the late game. We get to see what Upset can do, the rookie AD carry. This game, he didn't die. This game, he jumped forward at the correct times and picked up the kills. Important win for Schalke. We showed the standings twice. They now get to match a lot of the other teams in the middle of the standings. They don't fall further behind. They're 2 wins ahead of the bottom teams, Unicorns Love and H2K. Every single game matters, and this one was so important for Schalke.
So devastating for Misfits as well. They still haven't found the magic ingredients.
Misfits in the late game. They keep losing games despite winning hard in the mid game. They were so far ahead. They had Baron, everything, and then they lose a crucial fight due to a great engage from Pride on Zac, pulls the tanks back into the team. They all drop low. Misfits cannot disengage in time, and that one team fight got Schalke straight back into the game.
Still not perfect from Schalke though. If you look at that game, you say mid-game was weak. Like Misfits just took advantage after advantage. They played around their power, and Schalke weren't able to answer it. Took a little bit of good fortune, a little bit of luck for them to take the win in the end.
And now we have Misfits, Rocket, Splice, and Schalke. All 4 teams and 5 and 6. 2 of those teams will definitely not make playoffs.
That's crazy. Vitality are falling down the stable as well. You have to put them there, 7 and 4.
That's fair, actually. That's fair. We can put Vitality with these guys and Giants on 6 and 5. There is so much positioning. There's so much moving around. And I
Feels
feel
like we have a defined top 2, and everyone else is kind of, who knows?
Definitely.
Someone could win.
G2 Fnatic, they're enjoying life. Everyone else is just smacking into each other left and right, and then suddenly this team wins and this team wins, and Misfits lose a game where they were so far up. It feels horrible for them after getting that giant early lead. Feels fantastic for Schalke and especially for Upset. This is the kind of game you need to bounce back after some rough weeks.
It definitely is. And coming up in a few minutes, Vedius, Drakos, and Deficio will share their playoff predictions. Don't trust his. He doesn't know what he's talking about. So we're looking ahead to our match of the week, which is tomorrow, Fnatic versus G2. And we'll have even more in the post-game lobby. Make sure you stay tuned for that. Make sure you stay tuned for this as well, because our final game of the day, our analysts have selected Upset Pride and Chachi as your options for player of the game. Make sure you go over to @LOL Esports Twitter, where you can decide the winner. I'm going to give it to Upset just because he was still willing to jump forward. And sometimes, after you've been burned a few times, you feel that you don't want to do it again, take some time to get back into the water, but he was willing just to jump straight in.
You can definitely make a case for Pride.
You can.
As well.
You can.
Good early game, great engages in team fights. I really like seeing that from him. On the Zac here, he's been sitting on Sejuani for quite some games where it's been on and off. The Zac performance, really good from Pride.
Very good stuff from him all around. And I think if we're looking at this coming into the next few weeks, Deficio, and you're looking at Misfits and you're looking at Schalke, I know you're about to do playoff predictions, but do you see one of these teams not making playoffs, is my question. You don't have to tell me which one.
I have both teams in my top 6 for my predictions. I think it's almost a coin toss at this point, because there are some teams just outside of that top 6 who might as well be in there. Again, big discussion in PGL.
It's going to be a great discussion.
It's going to happen.
Because I know Drakos will like rip you to shreds on some of your predictions.
Yeah, but he's just hating on Splice.
Yeah, sure.
He's a hater. I believe in Copy and their late game.
And Kissing. Like, their late game has been very good, but today they drafted for late game and it didn't work out too well.
Yeah, you got to get there.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Schalke got a big win in the fight for playoffs. Let's check in with Laure, who's sitting down with Nukeduck. And Nukeduck, that's his name, and Upset.
Nice.
Thank you very much, guys. Indeed, I'm standing here with Nukeduck and Upset after their win. It must be a relief for you guys to win against Misfits, right, Nukeduck?
Yeah, it was very relieving. We really want to make playoffs, you know, so this was a super important win against a team that is in the same place in the standings as us. So yeah, this wins everything.
Obviously, and Upset, I mean, I think Tristana here was a very decisive pick in this match, specifically because Hans plays her a lot and you play her a lot. What do you think it was important for you to get her in that match?
I think Tristana was pretty important for me because it's like a big comfort pick and we had some rough weeks and our performance wasn't as good as expected on stage. So having Tristana and the comfort and maybe the team knows how to play around it well as well helped a lot, I think, in the game.
And talking more about the picks, Nukeduck, you picked Ryze. What do you think about the pick since the recent changes on the new patch with the ult and the stopwatch?
Yeah, I think right now you have to be a bit more like creative to play Ryze. Like his strong point is still, you know, like his laning phase. And then later into game now, you can't just like run it down one lane and get pressure like that. So you have to kind of play with the team and use the ulti well.
Well, Upset, I'm going to come back to you on that because you seem really more confident during this game. What were you missing before that you had today on stage?
I think before I did like at least one mistake per game that was like quite big for the team and that I usually wouldn't do, I guess. So I was kind of feeling pressure to like, oh shit, I did a mistake. I hope I don't do it again. And this maybe kind of snowballed. And today I went in with a different mindset with like no regrets and we just play and we see what happens, and I think this kind of helped.
And it's this mindset who got you player of the game today. How are you happy about it?
I mean, is it my first player of the game?
I think it is.
Yeah, that's nice, I guess. Feels good, man.
Yeah, and Nukeduck, do you have any words of wisdom for him to like gain confidence on stage? Because it seems you were in a similar situation last year, performing on scrims, not especially on stage. How can you help him?
I mean, I try to tell him all the time, like, don't like read like what people are writing, don't talk about what people are writing. Like, he doesn't really listen to me, but yeah, I'm trying to help him.
And I want to talk about that 28-minute team fight on the top lane where you went full ham actually on Misfits. What gave you the confidence and who made the call to go on them like that?
I mean, I think it was kind of a team thing. We were all just screaming, chase, 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 get him. But I think actually my problem wasn't maybe that I was too passive. In the other games, it was that I was trying to make too many plays or stuff like this and flashing in too much. So actually in this team fight, it was more like about looking exactly what threats they have and not like getting too ahead of myself, because I really wanted to flash in earlier in this fight, but I didn't.
And it worked pretty well for you guys. One last question for you. You must feel some pressure because I think many people had high expectations on Schalke at the beginning of the split. Do you feel like what people think in general makes you perform better or worse? Nukeduck.
Yeah, I think we have high expectations, but it's not that much like what people are saying about us. It's more like the project is like we have to reach playoffs. That's like our minimum goal, you know. And if you don't reach it, it's basically a failure. So yeah, that's where the pressure is coming from.
Yeah, and also I think we had like a lot of problems in the start maybe where our improvement wasn't as fast as it could be because I was sick too and stuff like this happened. So it was kind of like we didn't have the best start, and then when we start losing, it puts more pressure on us that we at least reach playoffs, because this is, yeah, like Nukeduck said already, our minimum goal.
Well, today was a convincing win, and I hope you guys can bounce back on that for the upcoming weeks. And that's all for us on this side of the stage. Congratulations, guys, again.
Thank you.
And now we're going to send it back to Sjokz and Drakos for the EU LCS post-game lobby.